This is the Non-Typical Nation podcast with your hosts, Brody Teal and Eric Labrie.
Let's talk hunting and absolutely everything else that goes with it.
Action. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Non-Typical Nation podcast. It's been a little while since we've done one here at the shop. Eric's gone guiding, and so today we're interviewing someone I've wanted to interview for a long time and bring on the podcast. I'm fortunate enough to spend almost every day of the last 8 years or 9 years with this guy right here. This is my grandpa, Dave Booth. He's the one that really got me started in the life I'm living right now. I think it was a master plan of yours.
Yeah.
That you've had all along.
That was it.
That was it. You've told me some incredible stories over the last few years. I've worked alongside you, like I said, for the last 8 or 9 years, since 2013, I think it was. So we've shared a lot of stories back and forth, and it was important to me to get you on the podcast to share some of these stories with some other people as well. And you've lived a very interesting life. Just how you got into the outdoors and how you got into taxidermy was, very unique. And I felt that it would be, something special and very intriguing to other people to hear your stories and to share those.
Well, I don't think it was interesting, but if you do, well, let's go.
We do. I definitely have been very intrigued with, all your stories, even the ones I've heard 5, 10, 15, or 20 times.
And check them out.
And yeah, sometimes I fact check you, but usually you're pretty true to your words. So let's just lay some groundwork out here. So Dave Booth, my grandfather, I started working with you full time, like I said, in 2013.
Yep.
All this taxidermy behind us here, this is in our taxidermy shop. This giant pike right behind me, that's the last reproduction mount that you've done.
Yep.
Great big pike, and that's sort of your specialty right now, is what you're doing a lot of, is the birds and the fish. You've been here in Northern Alberta since about 1996,
yeah.
It was. That's basically the groundwork for where we're at today. We're in Northern Alberta. Dave Booth Taxidermy is where I spend majority of my time when I'm not out hunting and with the family. So here we are today, back in the shop, doing another podcast. And I just wanted to sort of kick things off and dive into, I guess let's start from the very beginning. Maybe your childhood and what it was like growing up in the late 40s, early 50s. Was your family much of a hunting or outdoor family? Or was that just something for you to spend your own personal time in? Because I know you spent some time just for fun trapping and fishing as a child.
Yes. No, my parents, and as a matter of fact, nobody in my family liked outdoor life. They didn't like fishing, they didn't like trapping, they didn't like that, eh? But here I'm looking at this, I'm all by myself. Well, take that, eh? And so I went after it, the whole thing.
So, growing up, I guess, as a child, you grew up in BC. Which part of British Columbia did you grow up in?
In New Westminster.
In New Westminster. So, when you were a child or a teenager or whatever it was, growing up, when you first had a chance to sneak out with, some of your close friends, where would you guys go? What were some of these different places, and what would you guys do?
Oh, we would... of course, first thing we all had to do was buy bicycles.
Okay.
So we all had to get a job first, eh?
Yeah.
And so we are 14, 15 sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so my friend says, well, we should get paper routes, and then when we get our bike, we can quit them.
Yeah.
I says, goddamn good plan.
Yeah.
And so we got our bicycles, and we would go on the different islands all around us that are totally wild.
Yeah.
of course, today it's unfortunate, but you know, the islands are there, but it's all trucks and cars.
Yeah.
And but we would go into Coquitlam,
Okay.
all the way up the British Columbia coast is.
Yeah.
But not we couldn't go all the way up. I mean, we weren't that big.
You went as far as your legs would let you.
Take us,
Yeah.
and so forth. So we had a ball, and believe me, my friend Joe, that sucker could catch fish like you would not believe.
Yeah.
So we had no problem with eating fish.
No.
You know, and so it was a great time, and that's what we did. But it didn't matter. We could be fishing in the ocean. We'd go fishing in the ocean.
Yeah.
And then sit there for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 hours, and if we caught our fish, well, that's it. We're going to go home.
Yeah.
Or we would go catch crabs on the ocean shore.
Oh, no way.
Crabs and clams.
Yeah.
And then we would cook them up right there on the goddamn shore in a pot and pan, and it was fantastic.
It's amazing how good something tastes when you yourself are a part of the harvesting and killing of that fish or that animal or clam or whatever it is.
Oh, for
You
sure.
know, if someone else, say in New Westminster, just threw a plate of clams in front of you, you know, you might hem and haw, but if you catch that clam and cook it right on that shore, like you said, you remember it just being the most amazing thing.
Oh.
And that's because it's not only the taste, but everything around you is indulged when you enjoy that.
Well, I was lucky, whereas Joe, his parents were totally outdoorsy. I mean, totally.
Yeah.
And so they taught Joe how to do the fish and cook them up right and that sort of thing. So we would go out by ourselves and on our bikes and miles away and do whatever we had to do to catch fish and fry them up. And couldn't believe it. Beautiful.
That's incredible. And so Joe was the one who got you into the outdoors and fishing. And
well, it's kind of strange. We were in grade 2.
Grade 2. Wow.
Yes, in grade 2.
Yeah.
And we didn't talk to each other a whole bunch because when you're in grade 2, you know.
Yeah, you're 7 years old.
And so we started talking one day, and he says to me, "Do you like to go fishing?" That, and I said, "Sure." And really, you know.
You didn't know.
I didn't know.
No.
You know what I mean?
But you wanted to.
But damn right I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's how we started out.
Nice.
We went out there and caught the fish and we ate them, and no problem.
So I'm curious, did your family, was eating meat a big thing for people who weren't into that sort of thing in the 50s?
No, well, listen, everybody ate meat in those days.
Okay.
No kidding, eh?
Yeah.
And
they'd get it from a local butcher shop type thing.
That's right.
Okay.
Yes. And it was really good. I mean, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so we didn't have wild meat, but we had good.
Oh, for sure.
Roast beef and stuff like that, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Very cool. So grade 2, you met Joe. You guys got out, did some fishing. You know, Sports Afield and all those magazines, when did those, because you've talked a lot about the hunting and fishing magazines growing up.
Yeah,
did those hit you before you actually experienced it, or did you get out, go fishing with Joe, and then you've seen these in the magazines? And
well, now at 2 years old, how do you get a magazine to read it?
Yeah.
and so when me and Joe were probably in grade 4 or 5, well, we got these magazines.
Then
and
you found them,
It was pure heaven.
Yeah.
When we took them out, we couldn't believe it, eh?
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. So, you know, teenage years in British Columbia, you're spending some time fishing, going to school, obviously. You did a little bit of trapping as well.
Oh.
But that was more than less just to make some extra money? Or is that because you just truly enjoyed it, and if there's one way to make money, that's how you want to do it?
Well, first of all, yes, you're damn right I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But then we made money on it.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was fantastic.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah.
That's incredible. Now hunting wasn't really something that you really got into.
Pretty hard to when the family doesn't.
When the family doesn't, exactly. It's a lot
Right.
tougher. You
Yeah.
need guns, you need ammunition,
Yeah.
you need a place to go hunting.
Somebody who cares.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
No, fair enough. And that's why fishing is so huge, because to get into it, it's quite minimal, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
need a little pole and some line, and you can go fishing. So,
Well, I should say, excuse me for interrupting.
yeah.
So I would go all the time by myself.
Okay.
And I would we'd go on the logs in the Fraser River.
Yeah.
And the logs are floating up and down 3 or 4 feet.
Wow.
But we were so adept at walking on those big logs, we didn't bother. We didn't give a shit about it. And so I'm telling my brothers in that day and at the dinner table. And so they all decided, our father and my 2 brothers, they said, well, let's get into fishing. So they did.
Oh, they got into it too.
So they got into
After
fishing.
hearing your stories.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, and I think that's how most people get into the outdoors, is fishing, right?
Yep,
Because
right.
to get into it so easy, and realistically hunting, you can't actually hunt something until, well, you're 12, but everyone's got a fishing rod in their hand when they're 6, 7, and 8 years old, if they
That's
can,
right, yep.
right? So super cool. Now, when did taxidermy come along, or how did you get into taxidermy? When was the first time you seen a taxidermy mount?
What did you think when you first saw the cutest woman in your life? What did you think?
There we go. I'm in love.
Oh, yes. Well, that's what I did when I
Yeah.
saw my first mount.
Okay.
And I was on the bike riding uptown
Yeah.
for something. I was going to buy
In New
something.
Westminster?
In New Westminster,
Okay.
right. And holy Christ, I came across a store, and they were selling cigars
Yeah.
from the owl family. The
Snowy owl?
the snowy owl. That was their emblem now.
Oh, okay.
And that was
So it was it was a brand of cigars,
well, actually,
and
yes.
their logo was a snowy owl.
Yeah.
So they had a mounted snowy owl in the.
Yeah, right in there.
Oh, okay.
And it would just sit there, and everybody would look at it and go in there and buy cigars. And,
Yeah.
And from this drugstore,
Wow.
whatever it was. So it was love at first sight.
Yeah. So that was the first one you seen, and then how did you get into it? Like, what made you start doing taxidermy? Did you just look into it yourself? I know you.
Well,
hung around a taxidermy shop, but how did you find that, or how did you find?
good question.
Yeah.
But look at you and me.
Yeah.
When we have a problem, we figure that sucker out in half hour or so.
Yeah, when you want to do something,
You're damn right.
there's a will, there's a way, right?
That's right.
You find a way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So, what I did, I looked at that, and my heart just melted.
Okay.
I could not believe it. As a matter of fact, I went and bought my fishing supply or something, and then I came back in the afternoon.
Yeah.
But I came back for 2 or 3 weeks in a row.
To check
every
that
day,
owl out,
Every
yeah.
day to check that owl out. Oh, just unbelievable.
Was it open winged, closed winged?
No,
How was
closed
it?
wing.
Okay.
Close wing.
Yeah.
And a snowy owl, and sat there, beautiful.
Wow.
And so now I'm thinking, like, how do I get this? And so I'm reading a magazine, and there's a taxidermy business or a course that you can buy.
Oh,
All you
okay.
do is had to order it, and they would send you the magazines, with all how to do it. And so down the States, so I sent it, and it was cheap. I think it was like $3 or $4.
Yeah.
And so that's how I took that magazine, and they showed me how to do everything on there.
Wow.
Well, of course, nobody can go and do that right off the bat.
No.
You know what I
No.
mean, eh? And
That was actually, because I've seen a lot of older articles from the 40s, 50s, and 60s.
Yep.
And that was a very common thing, was advertising about these taxidermy courses that you can order. And those were just in normal newspapers. Like, it was almost a common thing.
Yeah, that's right. It was around.
Yeah.
It was around.
More common than it is now.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
you would never see a taxidermy course advertised in anything that's mainstream now.
No,
You know
not
what I
much. Not much.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you got the course. What was the first thing you, like, what was the first thing you did?
They tell you how to skin it out.
Okay.
You know how to flesh it and do everything. And so
you got yourself a hide or a bird or something?
Yeah, I got a pigeon.
Pigeon, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Pigeon. And when you shot it with a 22.
You got it, yeah. Nice.
We had to get it somehow.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I took it out and tried to skin it, and so I skinned it, and I was quite happy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was quite happy. And then I tried to mount it the way it said, and that was horrendous. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done.
I can imagine, yeah.
You know, it was difficult. And so I got it done, but to finish it just, I just didn't have the wherewithal to finish it.
Okay.
So I snuck it in my mom and dad's small deep freeze. We used to have little deep freezes around those days. And so I snuck it in there and kept it so I could get it some other time.
Yeah.
And so that was it. Now with the fish, so then after that, we had to go on. We're going to go on fish now, eh? I mean, there's nothing that I'm not going to do.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I'm reading about the fish, and so I phoned Joe. I says, Joe, listen, do you want to go fishing out in the right off Ocean Shore of, in Surrey? He said, well, yeah, sure. What do you want? I said, well, I'm going to try and mount one of those cutthroat trout. He said, no problem. Come on, we'll go.
Wow.
So we went out. Sure as hell, I caught a nice cutthroat trout. Yeah. And now you see, I'm getting more bold.
Yeah.
I'd be damned if I didn't cut it out and flesh it and tan it with a certain type of tan.
Okay.
And then made a body for it. And
what did you make the body out of for that fish at that time?
Oh, we used to use Excelsior.
Okay.
Excelsior.
Yeah.
And then when I really got smart, I made it out of styrofoam. Blue styrofoam.
Yeah. Yeah.
But first we used to wrap them with this Excelsior.
That's what I was curious about.
Yeah,
that would be a little tricky for fish.
Yeah, you're damn right.
Like, I could see you could do it with birds, all right, but with fish, that would have been a little tough.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, even the pros now, in those days, they would do a whole African line charging with, done out of Excelsior.
Yeah. Wow.
Yes. Yeah. So that.
So you got your cutthroat trout. You mounted that thing.
It,
yeah.
And then now I knew I had to mount it, so I knew I was in trouble, because how in hell do you paint these fish like that?
Yeah.
In those days, I didn't know about airbrushes.
Okay.
I didn't know about it, and so I got it, and I would spray a can of silver on the whole side, and on the back, and the back side, and then I would spray white on the belly with a can of all the way up, and then I needed a little bit of red.
Red, yeah.
And so I don't know what the hell I did. I probably got something to just to put it on. You know what I mean? A brush of some sort.
Yep.
And I did her. That was my first fish. To this day.
Yeah.
I regret not keeping that fish.
Oh, for sure.
To this day.
You would have. I'd imagine you were so darn proud of that thing when you did that.
Oh. When you're hooked
That's
on
incredible.
taxidermy,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're hooked on taxidermy.
Wow.
and you want to do that. Well, you
Yeah.
know what it is like now.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, we're on each other's ass to make sure we're doing it perfect.
Yeah.
You know,
Wow.
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that was, I did it, and then I kept it for a couple of weeks and said, oh, that's not good enough, and I tossed it away. Well, I should have kept it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I didn't, so life goes on.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. No,
right.
we've all. Yeah. You know, when you and in the moment, you know, you toss it, and then as time passes, you start to think, you know, maybe
Yeah.
I should have kept that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's if somebody's trying it out, keep your first ones.
For sure.
Keep your first ones, and actually you get better by keeping them there.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
can see the progression
yeah,
you've made.
you'll get better. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then so you did a little bit of taxidermist in New Westminster.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and that was with Steve Kulash.
Yeah, my friend Steve. I didn't do
Yeah.
it for him. No.
No. Did you,
I
you
needed
helped out
supplies.
with him a little bit? Oh, you bought supplies from him.
Bought supplies for
Okay.
him. And Steve, when you bought stuff for him, he would help you out
Help
there.
you out, yeah.
And so the more he helped you out, the more you would get done.
Nice.
And so he would show me, eh?
Yeah.
But he didn't show me everything.
No.
They
No.
don't show you
Yeah,
everything.
you can't do that. You can't show everything.
Yeah, that's right. You know what I mean? And sorry, folks, even today it happens that way.
yeah, we've got a few secrets around here.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so he was a good man, Steve.
Yeah.
He was one of the best taxidermists there was, and unfortunately,
Yeah.
he got killed about 5 years ago or 6 years ago.
In a house fire.
Yeah, in a house fire. Yeah, burnt him
Yeah.
right down.
Jeez.
Yeah, sad.
Yeah, very sad. And yeah, so he had a big studio. Was it in New Westminster, his?
It was in Burnaby.
It was in Burnaby. Okay.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And it was right downtown, I
No,
believe.
right down
wasn't it?
Burnaby Park.
Okay.
I don't know if you know where that is.
No, I
No,
don't,
okay.
no.
That's on the highway, not downtown
okay.
Vancouver, but it's in Burnaby.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, right.
Very cool. And they ran a pretty big operation there.
Yeah, he did. At one
So he
time,
had a supply company and he had his taxidermy
yeah,
studio.
at one time he had 13 people there.
Wow. Yeah, and for a taxidermy studio, that's pretty big.
Oh, monstrous,
Yeah.
monstrous. And then of course, what happened? Then the tough times hit everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so when that happens, guys don't get taxidermy. They do very little. So
Mhm.
eventually had to start laying off one at a time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so they ended up with 3 guys,
Okay.
and 3 guys bought the company there.
Yeah.
You know, from Steve at the same time. They all bought it. eh?
Okay.
And that was that.
That was that.
Yeah.
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 And so meanwhile, after that, you ended up moving to Saskatchewan
Yeah.
and with my grandmother, Maureen.
Yeah.
And when you were in Saskatchewan, did you start doing taxidermy or did you start doing the tanning first, or did you do both together?
Well,
Because you got really big into the tanning at one point too.
yeah, I did very big.
And so,
Because if you didn't, and you're out there in Saskatchewan in the early 60s or 70s,
Yeah.
and you don't get a tan, you're in trouble.
yeah, so we covered the 50s and 60s. Now, so Michelle, my mom, was born in 69, so you would have moved to Saskatchewan in the early 70s then.
Yeah. Well, the reason I moved to Saskatchewan,
Yeah.
if you don't mind me,
Yeah, no, explain.
I was scaling cedar trees,
Yeah,
and these cedar trees were used as telephone poles.
okay.
And so, but first they had to be peeled
Yeah,
on a big peeler, and of course it would be tons of cedar dust.
dust, yeah.
Turns out I was super allergic to cedar dust.
Wow.
Yes, and so I almost died 2 or 3 times, and so finally my doctor says, you just have to move away. Because
Wow.
I can walk a mile away from where it was,
Yeah.
and something would
No way, and it was the cedar dust.
yeah. The
So
cedar-
you just pass out, or your lungs would inflame? What would happen?
Oh yeah, you'd pass out all right. And they
Really?
somebody would haul you to the doctors and
Holy
and,
smokes.
oh yeah. She was terrible.
Was that a common thing? Like, were there other people who experienced that, or was that unique to you?
It's not so much of a real common thing because nobody got compensation for it.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Interesting.
And I didn't either.
Yeah.
But when I moved to Saskatchewan, and I started working for a little company.
Yeah.
And then I went. I built a shop and went into taxidermy full time right on Main Street in Tisdale.
Yeah.
And so this one guy from the IWA happened to drive by, and he saw my shop, so he pulls in.
Yeah.
And somehow, because he liked taxidermy, like hunting and fishing.
Yeah.
And
check it out.
somehow, we got talking, and he says, "Well, where are you from?" I says, "New Westminster." "Well, New Westminster, I'm with the IWA out there." Well, I said, "I worked at R.G. Haley Pole Company, and I got lung poisoning
Yeah.
from the cedar." And he says, "Well, don't you know that is you get a pension for life from that?"
Okay.
I said, "Well, nobody told me that."
Yeah.
He said, "I'll check it out for you."
Oh, yeah.
Well, it turns out that at that time when I got it, there wasn't any.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so there's
They probably kept very minimal records too.
Oh, they didn't keep any records.
They didn't keep any, yeah.
And they didn't keep any records.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I eventually got rid of it. I got asthma from it.
Yeah.
But so what? Makes
So
no
what?
goddamn
Yeah.
difference. I'm still going to go to work. You know
Exactly. What are you gonna do, right? Are you gonna
what I mean? Yeah. Right.
lay down all day and do nothing?
Yeah, yeah.
So you got yourself a location in Tisdale.
Yeah.
And that was really the first time that you started doing taxidermy for other people.
Well,
Is that
I
correct?
did in New Westminster.
You did in New Westminster, okay.
But I would just do a little bit here and a little bit there,
Oh, okay.
and pray it worked out.
Oh, okay, I see.
And
Yeah.
and so, but yes, I went into it full time
Okay.
because I thought I knew something,
Yeah.
and so some the guys were really liking it, because
So obviously,
there was no taxidermists around.
that's what I was just going to ask. When you moved there, you felt there was a bit of a demand for it.
Oh yeah, I knew it.
Obviously, Saskatchewan farmers, lots of deer around,
Yep.
hunting community,
Yep.
Saskatchewan in general, all those communities at that time were filled with families who they got their
hunting.
meat from hunting,
Yeah.
right?
Hey, that's how they lived. It was
Yeah.
meat, and so forth. Hey, and so
So a lot of deer heads.
Yeah, right. So anyway, I started doing fish, and so I only did one or two fish, and you know what happened to my first fish. So anyways, so this guy brought in a 13-pound walleye, and I couldn't believe it.
Right off the bat.
I couldn't believe it. I've never seen a fish so big.
Yeah.
The 13. I mean, I've caught 13-pound salmon.
And so that would have came out of Tobin Lake?
That came out
In the
Well,
70s?
yes, it did.
Okay.
Yes, it did. Yep. And so the guy wanted it mounted, and he wanted in a certain color,
Yeah.
and so forth. Eh? So I said okay, and so I hustled my butt
Yeah.
to get this thing done for the guy, and he was very happy,
Yeah.
so forth. So I got it done and painted, and he comes in, and he looks at it and he says, "David, that's a nice mount, but I have to give you some constructive criticism." Now that's the best advice you can get from anybody if you're a sports person.
And for that to happen that early on
Yeah.
is probably the best thing that could have happened.
Best thing ever
Before
happened.
you built up an ego of yourself, you were told
Yeah.
right off the bat
Yeah,
to
yeah.
appreciate constructive criticism.
And when
Yeah.
he told me about that,
Yeah.
and I did it,
Yeah.
I was good after that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I was good after that. And well, it took me a little bit of time, eh?
Yeah.
And so I took the guy's advice, and redid it. When he came back, he was very happy.
Very happy,
Very
yeah.
satisfied.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you were getting your supplies then from Steve in BC?
Oh, yeah, I would still get it from Steve, yeah.
Yeah.
And out of AAA Taxidermy.
Oh, really?
Oh,
so
yeah.
they were there
I'm
in
one
the
of the
early
earliest.
70s.
I'm one of the earliest customers.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not the earliest, but I'm one of them.
One of them. Very,
Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So in Saskatchewan, obviously you did a lot of fish. I'd imagine some birds and
Yep.
primarily a lot of whitetails and deer.
Yeah, right, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Antelope, yeah.
Antelope, yeah, well,
Elk,
antelope
lots of
around there.
elk.
Really, eh?
Oh, yeah.
And so you tanned everything at the shop.
Yeah, I had no choice.
Wasn't
yeah.
really another option.
Yeah.
And then at one point, tanning sort of took over what you were doing in the taxidermy thing.
Oh, yeah, right.
Like tanning started to become the big one for you.
Yes, it did.
And so how far into your time in Saskatchewan did you really start to do majority of the jobs as just tanning jobs?
Oh, yeah, for sure. That would be.
Because you opened up a tannery,
Yeah, right.
right? So how did you transition, I guess, from the taxidermy shop to opening up the tannery?
Well, I had a lot of nerve. And
Like,
you know,
were you running both, the taxidermy and the tanning,
at
two
the time,
separate businesses?
At the time it was.
Okay.
But the leather tannery was so good that I just I had to take it on. You know what I mean? I had to do it, eh? And
So just you were doing taxidermy, and then you had someone come in and say, "Hey, can you tan this leather?"
yes, right.
Was it as simple as that? Is that how you
Yeah,
got
yeah,
into
for sure.
it? Okay,
For sure. Because if you can tan a bear hide, why can't you tan a piece of leather?
fair enough.
But it's not that simple.
No.
Yeah. And so that's what happened. And so when I got into it, I realized how damn easy it was.
Okay.
It was really easy.
Yeah.
And whoa.
And there was a
telling
high demand for it.
you. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. We
A
got
lot of
we got-
cattle in that region, I'd imagine. So you.
Oh, they were. I had scientists from Ontario, in Toronto, say that the leather in Saskatchewan is the best hide leather you can get.
Really?
Yeah, off of cows.
Wow.
The best you can get.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we started with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and.
So were you doing a lot of jobs for just personal guys, or were you?
More 90% personal.
And then were you like tanning for businesses for resale and stuff like that, or how did?
Well, after a while, now again I'm by myself,
Yeah.
and after a while I started that with customers, eh?
Okay.
And they used to like the customers I had. They liked the moose and the moose hide, you
Yeah.
know, and they would make mucklucks and coats and
Oh, okay.
all that stuff out of it.
Wow.
And so so we provide the leather for us. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So at one point did you turn down the taxidermy work and went full bore into the tanning, or did you always do both?
Well, I got a friend of mine to kind of take it over. If you want
over the tanning? Okay.
No,
the taxidermy. Oh, okay.
And so he said, "Well, sure, I will." And so he there was a little shop downtown that was empty, and
Oh, okay. I see.
so he takes it down there and starts doing a taxidermy down there, eh?
And then you started.
And
What was
then
the
I'm
tanning business
into
called?
Tanning full, huh?
What was the tanning business called?
It was debut tanning or something.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
And so you went full bore into tanning.
Yes, right.
Yeah, and he did the taxidermy. And
Yeah.
so what year was that? What would that have been? Would that have been in, because you moved to Tisdale in the early 70s and you were there till 96.
Yeah.
So you were
Oh,
there
yeah.
for about 20 years.
Yeah, and so I think it'd be, taking a guess, in the 80s.
Okay,
Could be a little bit before that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Sort of thing, yeah.
interesting. Right on. And so tanning's always been a huge passion of yours.
Yeah, it has.
Yeah, I've known that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
From the time I moved here, you forever have done your own tanning.
Yeah.
And until it just got to the point where the volume of work that we were getting in, we got to choose,
Yeah.
right? Like as of probably 5 years ago, there's just so much work coming in, and we got to decide: are we going to do this or are we going to do that?
Yep.
Where do we want to concentrate our energy into?
Well, you were with me, and so we had this discussion by ourselves,
Yeah.
and so we knew we couldn't do it ourselves.
No.
So you decided that we'll get somebody in.
Yeah. There's two options. You can send
Yeah.
it away, or you can bring someone in and train them how to do that. So
Right.
that's what you did, and it's been working out all right.
Mm-hmm.
So you moved to Slave Lake up in northern Alberta in '96, and so as a child, I think in '95 I would have been 3 years old. So I don't remember too much of going to that shop in Tisdale.
When you were
I don't
4
have a
years
memory
old.
of that. I would have been 4 or 5 when you
Yep.
moved to Slave Lake here. And so I have very fond memories of being, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. I was living in Saskatchewan, and I would come up to Slave Lake almost every summer
Yep.
and spend the summers here.
Yep.
So that's what I remember. I think I was 10 years old when I mounted a few squirrels.
Well, you certainly did.
Yeah.
I have to say, I don't know if you remember this, but we went out and we got some squirrels.
Yeah.
And so I showed you how to skin them out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so after that, you say, well, I can do that. So you skinned it out.
Yeah.
And then we made a body for it.
Yeah.
You made the body.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Do you
Yeah.
remember that?
So that body, we wrapped that body
We
then.
wrapped it. That's right.
Okay,
And that's
yeah.
why to this day you can still wrap bodies.
Yeah, exactly.
They're still over here wrapped.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And so you did this. You did this squirrel, and you mounted it, and it was running up a tree or something, and its mouth was wide open, and you could
Yeah.
see the actual teeth in its mouth.
Yeah.
And further ahead from this, one of our top fish and game guys
Yeah.
came in here and said, "Well, who mounted the squirrel for you?" I said, "Brody's boy. I mean, Brody did."
Yeah. Yeah.
You mean Brody, that little
An
guy?
8-year-old,
I
9-year-old.
says, "Yeah, he did. He could not believe it.
Yeah. Wow.
Couldn't believe it."
Yeah.
And then you mounted a grouse for
Yeah,
us.
that's right.
Do you remember
Yeah.
what type?
It was a spruce grouse.
Spruce grouse.
We
Yeah.
shot that grouse together.
Yes.
That was the first grouse we shot together.
Yeah,
Well,
right.
first grouse I shot. Period.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, it was gorgeous. Remember
It was.
Remember we walked in that greenery in that
Yeah.
bush.
Yeah, it was
Holy
beautiful. It was
mackerel.
one of those moments where
Oh.
it's just a magical setting.
Oh, geez.
You
was
know,
it
it's
ever.
one of those things that you dream
Yeah.
of, and it's one of those memories you look back on, and it truly is
We never forget.
magical. You know what
That's
I mean?
right.
Just the scene.
Yeah.
I don't know if it for some reason I think the sun might have been setting, and you had that golden hour. And
Could have
you
been,
know
yeah.
how the sun, when it starts to go down, has that gold shade on the trees.
But the ground was pure green.
Pure green with moss and
Yes.
spruce trees.
Yes.
And
pure green, and it was gorgeous.
and if I remember correctly, you were sitting down on a log and whatever, right? And I went for just a little peek in the bush, and I seen a spruce grouse.
Yeah, right.
That thing was standing right there. I had your 410, and I
Yeah.
yelled at you. I'm like, "There's a spruce grouse. Can I shoot it?"
Yeah.
And you're like, "Yeah." And I shot it.
Yeah, you did.
And like that's something that you couldn't even write in a book, because realistically, like I don't remember a time where I've had a gun and I was 10 feet away from that spruce grouse and I could yell and talk and that thing just stood there.
Yeah, right.
But it did.
Yep.
Like I said, it's one of those almost magical moments,
Yep.
and something that I will never ever forget.
Hmm.
And yeah, so then we had mounted that grouse and then the squirrel with that.
Yes. Yeah. And the fish and game guy could not believe it.
Yeah.
Just couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And
the grouse's wings were open. It was leaping off of the piece of driftwood.
It was.
And the
Your
squirrel
first
was
one.
running.
And you just did it yourself. I mean,
Well, I don't think I did the grouse myself. I think you helped me quite a bit on that
well,
one.
probably to get it mounted.
Yeah.
But other than that, you did all the sewing up
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Yeah. Well, I mean, the squirrel. Well, that's your deal.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Right? Yes.
Yeah, we did a lot of stitching growing up.
Yeah, we sure did.
We've got photos of me and Brady 12 and 13 or 12 and 14 stitching up a life-size wolf. And
That's right.
Bears.
That's
and-
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys sure did.
A
Boy,
lot of
boy.
stitching. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
seasoned when it comes to stitching.
Yeah.
But you gotta be, and you gotta somewhat enjoy the stitching because you will go insane if you got 10 hours of stitching to do in a day in this business. But
That's
that's
right.
just the way it goes, right? And
Yeah.
you gotta accept it. And yeah, I think it definitely helped that we were stitching things at 10, 11, 12 years old. And
Yeah, for sure.
now,
for
you
sure.
know, if you
Yeah.
gotta do it, you gotta do it. It is what it is,
Mhm.
right? There's no way
Funny how
around it.
things progress.
Yeah,
Because now I'm unable to do, because I'm not strong enough for a
Yeah.
lot of this stuff,
yeah,
and you are.
yeah,
And so you are now in charge of all the big stuff.
yeah,
It doesn't
All the
matter
mammals,
what it
yeah.
is, you do it all.
yeah,
And what I do now, I do the fish and the birds.
and the birds, yeah.
And that's all I do.
Yeah, but that's and there's a good majority of work to do with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, we got lots of
But
it.
oh well, that's just it. The fish and birds is a full time job, hands
Yeah.
down. But that's what you love to do.
Yep.
You truly love doing fish and birds, and you just talked about your first two critters you did
Yeah.
was a pigeon and a cutthroat trout,
Yep.
a
Yep.
bird and a fish, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's super
unbelievable.
cool. And so where we shot that grouse,
Mm-hmm.
the first September I moved to Slave Lake,
Yeah.
we shot my first bear on that same road.
That's exactly right. About
Yeah.
100 yards down.
Yeah, on that same
That
road.
is right. And
Yeah.
we still got that bear hide here.
Yeah, I got the bear hide here, yeah.
Yeah, beautiful bear, beautiful bear.
Nice,
Way to go.
Nice white chest.
Do you remember there was 9 bears that day?
Yeah, we see 9 bears.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and you took that one.
yeah, yeah. No,
Of course, your gun was kind of going like this, so
yeah.
but you got it. Yeah.
Yeah, what actually happened? So we seen a whole pile of bears, and we were on our way home, coming off of this. On our way out, we still had a few kilometers on this road to go out, and we seen the bear, and I hopped out of the truck, and the truck was still rolling down the trail.
Mm-hmm.
So I hopped back in,
That's right.
slam it in gear, and
Yep.
same thing. This bear's standing there looking at us. I shot, it ran in. You know, I'd never really shot anything before, and then I followed it, and I should have gave it 20 minutes, and it probably would have been dead.
Yeah, right.
But
yeah.
I went in there, and it lifted its head, so we shot it again. We left, and
Yeah.
we eventually got it out, and
Yeah.
yeah, no, that was
Skinned it out.
Skinned it out right then and there. Skinned it up the back because I was going to do it life size.
Yep.
Still have intentions of doing it life
Ha
size.
ha
but-
ha. And now that's a long time ago.
Yeah, that was 2013.
Oh, well, that's not so bad.
No, it's 21, so
Yeah.
8
yeah.
years or so. Yeah, and I've got a few grouse with Jackson on that road, and we've
Yes.
done a lot on that road. It's
Now, talk about progress, eh?
yeah.
Now we got Jackson involved
Now we
here.
got Jackson. I was just actually explaining to you how. So I was whatever it was, right, 8, 9 years old, coming around the shop, and Jackson. So he's he's turning 7 in a week, and he's at the shop almost every day after school. Not quite. Usually he's
Yeah.
riding his bike outside and whatnot. But today he came in and he said, "Dad, I want to mount something."
Ha!
I said, "Well, buddy," I said, "I don't really have anything for you to mount." He said, "Can I like paint a fish, or do you have something like some antlers?" I said, "No," but I said, "Do you want to gloss a couple things?" I said, "I got a couple noses that need to be glossed
Right.
and some lip lines on bears." So all he's doing is getting a brush, putting it in some gloss, and then he just brushes where I've painted.
But Brody,
So
doing it very well.
Very simple, but you've got to want to do it, because
Yeah.
if you didn't want to do it, well then you'd get it all over the place. But he very meticulously and very carefully you know, epoxied everywhere I painted, or sorry,
Yeah.
glossed everywhere I painted,
Mhm.
and did very, very well.
Yes.
I showed him the first one. He did this bear right here. He did
Whoa,
another
look
bear.
at that.
Yeah, he glossed all of that.
Holy jeez.
He did a wolf. And
Wow.
yeah, so, you know, I moved here in 2013. We had Jackson in October of 2014. And here we are, right? And now he's into this,
Yes.
right? So I was your first grandchild, and you had a boy as your first grandchild. Had you had the intentions of having someone in here helping you and eventually taking over the business?
You ask Grandma.
Had you had your intentions, or did that's just the way it happened?
Total intention.
Total intentions.
Total.
Yeah.
And when you were 4 years old,
Yeah.
you were running around this great big brown bear we did, life size.
Okay, yeah.
You're running around it, and
Yeah.
and you're kind of scared, but you just loved it.
Loved it, yeah.
And so I knew it
Yeah.
right then and there that was it, eh?
Yeah. Well, and that's this sort of stuff. Kids either absolutely love it
Yeah.
or they don't like it at all.
That's right.
But a lot of kids who like wildlife, they're just amazed by this stuff.
Yes.
And I'd imagine that's the way I was.
Yes.
Because how often do you get to see animals this close? And then
Yeah.
if you can be around that and see how it happens and how it works, it's just super intriguing. And that's where it, you know,
Yep.
for me, again, also same as you, not growing up in like a hunting family, right? Like my parents
Yeah.
didn't really
no,
hunt.
no, you're right.
But I was still 9, 10, 11 years old every Sunday turning on the TV and watching the hunting show because
Wow.
that's what I knew I wanted to do.
Yeah, right.
Right? Because I was spending time here
Mm.
and seeing all these different animals and seeing a guy bring in a deer.
Well,
And that was
yeah.
just amazing to me, right?
Well, yes, it was, but I got to mention this, okay? You love to fish,
Yeah,
and so what did you do? You started making hooks,
that's right.
and you got into selling them. So you made them,
Yeah,
and Grandma and I would sell them for you.
yeah.
One afternoon, we sold $300 worth of your lures.
Yeah. Well, sort of like you in trapping, right? You're a kid
Mm,
and you're like, I got to get some money. Because when
Yeah.
you're a kid, money means freedom.
yeah.
You know, it means that you can go and buy a chocolate bar, or you can go and get a pop, or you can go and get a new bicycle, whatever it is, right?
That's right, yeah.
And then so for me, that's what money was, right? And I loved fishing.
Mm-hmm.
And then so I realized that there was a company that sold fishing parts. And so I
Yeah.
thought, okay, well, I could build spoons and spinner rigs,
Very good, eh?
right?
Yep.
And then we can sell these. I didn't know where I was going to sell them, but I knew if I talked to you guys about it, you guys would figure that out for me.
Yes.
And so that's what we did. I think for a summer or 2 summers is I made these
Yeah.
fishing hooks that I was living in Yorkton in our first house. So I would have been in grade 4 and 5. So I would have been 9 and 10 years old at that time.
Yeah.
I remember being in class and drawing different fishing hooks I was going to make.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Different color patterns
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Well, do you remember when you had to go home, and so we would sell hooks here in
Okay.
Slave Lake. There
Yeah.
would be some kind of a due, and Maury and I would take out your.
No way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I do believe we had about. I'm going to take a guess. $500 worth of your hooks.
Wow.
I'm not too sure, but we delivered it to
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
No way. That's super
Yeah.
cool. So I actually found one spinner rig that was still in the original plastic packaging
Whoa.
and the paper.
You got it here?
I don't have it here right now, but I have it in my house.
Wow.
So that would have been made when I was 9 or 10 years old.
Right.
So 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So I'm 29, right?
Way to go,
It
Brody.
doesn't feel like it's been 20 years.
No, that's right.
You know, I'd imagine it
Yeah.
just went in the blink of an eye.
Bang.
Right?
Just like that, yeah.
But yeah, original packaging, everything, and I found one because you guys had a bunch, but they burnt in the fire in Slave Lake in 2011.
That's right. Yes, that's right. We lost a ton of them.
Yeah.
And but guys still came here and asked for them.
For those spoons,
Yes,
spinners,
spoons. So I don't know what you did, but it worked out.
Okay, yeah. Well, Jackson wants to start it now. So
does he? There you go.
So we might get him set up to make his own hooks. Because again, when you're a kid, right?
Yeah.
The only freedom that you can almost have on your own is having a little bit of money, because that means that you can buy something or do this or do that, right?
Yeah.
So.
Jackson, he's always looking out for money.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I think that's like all of us, right? Like myself and like you too, right? Like going trapping meant that you could sell that fur and get a couple bucks.
Yep, that's right.
Right, and then you could go to a movie, or then you could do this or do that, right?
Yep.
So,
we could actually take a girl out.
Take a girl out, exactly. There you go.
Yep.
So I moved here, right, in 2013, and you had been in Slave Lake since 1996 at that point, so you had been here for almost 20 years. 2021 now, so it's been about 25 years you've been here, and ran a full-time taxidermy studio.
Yep.
You've always had a couple guys working with you at a time.
Yep.
And things just haven't slowed down.
No, never have.
No.
We're bigger than ever.
Consistently the last 5 years or 4 years, each year we've gotten busier.
Yeah.
Last year was strange because with COVID, we didn't know, we thought it might be slower.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Yep,
but
yep.
I think what it was is a lot of people weren't working right off the bat, so they took advantage of the time to go out hunting.
That's right.
And then
they still had money.
They still had money, right? And so now this year also left a lot of uncertainty, because now we're on to year 2 of this, but the spring turned out to be just as busy as last year.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've been quite fortunate with where we are at right now. And it all started with a pigeon and a cutthroat trout in Westminster.
Well, and guess what? Guess what? Yes. Well, for that little boy.
Yeah.
This little boy here.
Yeah.
How about this one here? You talked to a customer the other day, and he's going to get an African lion for you to mount.
Yeah. Yeah. Always something.
Yeah.
A polar bear, a lion,
Yeah. But I mean, to do an African lion, you've done them before. And,
who knows? Yeah.
And you know what I mean? So it's perfect.
Yeah, we see all sorts of stuff. All sorts of stuff. So, I didn't do any fishing this year though.
No.
So next year we gotta get the boat out, go out, do some fishing, catch some walleye. This year we actually didn't get out too much. So we were hoping to have you over for a walleye feast, but it didn't happen just because we didn't have much. But we will have some this winter, so we'll have you over this winter. We'll have a good walleye feast, because it's been a little while since you've had one.
Yeah, no kidding, eh?
Yeah.
And you can cook the best walleye I've ever tasted. So there you go.
Yeah, we like our fish. Weird thing with Jackson though, last time he had fish last winter, he sparked up a bad allergy.
Oh wow.
His whole face turned red, his throat got itchy. He had one little piece of northern pike. So I'm wondering if maybe it's the northern pike over the walleye, because he's had fish before.
Yeah.
This just happened last winter.
Could it be one little bone?
I don't think so. I don't think it was. Yeah. So I don't know. So we gotta keep an eye on that with him. But yeah, so we haven't had a whole lot of fish, but we love it, and we'll have you over for a fish fry once we start
we
catching
can hardly
again.
wait. We even talked about it today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, you got some notes here. Was there anything you wanted to talk about or go over?
No, these are from when I'm 10 to 13.
Did we miss anything?
We did that. We pretty well got it.
We covered it all?
Yeah, we got it. Yes.
We covered it all.
Yeah.
Well, I always shoot for an hour, and we're at an hour right now.
Okay.
Was there any closing remarks? Anything you want to add in? Let it out, because if you don't let it out now.
Oh damn! You got me there.
What's the next thing you got on the list taxidermy wise? Why don't you let everyone know? We got a few reproductions coming in for you.
Yeah.
What are you doing next?
Well, actually, the good news is we do probably more reproductions than most of the fish taxidermists around here.
We do a lot of fish.
Yeah.
A lot of guys don't do skin mounts, and that's one thing I should mention though, is you still do skin mounts.
Yep.
A lot of guys don't do skin mounts. We do more reproductions than we do skin mounts, but we still do quite a bit of each.
Show them the reproduction right there.
Yeah, and right behind me. So what we got here was a fish that was caught in 1977, and so the guy who originally caught the fish, he gave it to, I believe it was his son. He gave the mount to his son, and well, that was 40 years ago or whatever it is, right? So the mount was falling apart. They brought it to us. We took the measurements off of it, and we got a brand new reproduction in, and then you totally redid it, revamped it.
Right, yeah.
And it turned out absolutely incredible. We got the original name tag that was on the original mount there.
Yeah.
And this is what you love to do.
Right.
And you are damn good at it. And birds as well, right? But I think fish is what's on the radar next for you. You got a few fish that you got to get done, some reproductions.
Well, yes, reproductions, but we've got, goddamn deep freeze and a half to do those. So I want to
skin mounts and birds.
I want to have them done before the fall hunting. Didn't work out though. Didn't work out.
Well, the intention was there, right? You wanted to, but that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so here we are. It is right now when we're recording this, it is the middle of October roughly right now, and right in the middle of hunting season. And our busy season is really November. That's when the deer start to really start rolling in. So we're just trying to get as much as we can.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
Well, now, when you moved to Edmonton, and you weren't even sure if you're going to come and work for us, but although your heart was there, we all knew that, eh?
Yeah. So I lived in Regina until I was 20 years old. Moved to Edmonton. I got transferred with my work there, and I spent half my day driving. And I thought, yes, you make all right money, but this really, like the next position up for me would still consist of me driving pretty much all day, and this really isn't what I want to do. No. And at that time, I did a little bit of fishing on my own, no hunting at all. But it's one of those things, everybody has that one sort of idea or that or something in their head that they've always wanted to do.
Yeah.
But everyone has it, and you can't do it. You don't have the means of doing it. But me moving up here and working with you gave me that opportunity to do that one thing and live that lifestyle that I always wanted to live.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Live my whole life, make my living in the outdoor industry, in the hunting industry, doing taxidermy, and then I'd have a chance to try out hunting on my own. And that opened the door. And so a big jump, right? Like a big commitment to say, I'm done with everything in the past, all of that, this job, sorry guys, I'm putting in my 2 weeks and moving up here. Right?
And you did.
And I did. I said, well, I'm 21 years old or whatever it is. If there's a time for me to do it, I think it's better for me to do it early on than to make that decision later in life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I did. Right? And so the first few years, I was all ears and just learning. And then I think it was probably year 5 or 4 when we really started gaining traction.
Yes.
And and it's been now 5 years that we've consistently got busier.
It was, I think, the 4th year when I looked at you. I'm looking at you doing a mount, and it was utterly unbelievable.
Yeah.
At that you just got it. You
Yeah.
just had it right then and there. Yeah.
And I've talked to a lot of people about it too, because, you know, a lot of guys say, you know, I love your deer, they look so good. And I said, you know what it is? It's repetitions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's unfortunate for some guys because they only might do 4 deer a year or 6 deer a year, just a hobby thing. But I'm lucky that I will do 40 deer a year, you know, a ton of them.
Yeah.
And that's same with bears and same with cougars, right? And it's all repetitions. The more you do, the better you get, the easier it is. The easier it is, the less stressful it is, the better job you're ultimately going to do.
That's right.
And, you know, you can never stop learning. I still have a million things I want to improve on, and I'm always trying to improve on and get better on. But things are getting easier as you do more and more, right?
For sure.
But yeah, it was a big leap, and you know, obviously a lot of uncertainty. Like I didn't know what I was, you know, going to get into or what I was going to do. Like I, as a child, right, came and visited here, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, honestly, the best move I ever made. I now have a family here, right?
Yes, you do.
You have 2 great-grandchildren.
Yes, I do.
I've got 2 children. I've got a wife and a hunting TV show. We've got a taxidermy studio that's busier than ever, right? So a lot has happened in the last 8 or 9 years, and it's all because of you. And it is all because of you, because if I didn't move up here, I might not have even got into hunting.
Yeah.
You know, I might not have. I might have still been working for a big corporation in Edmonton and driving a truck all day long and, you know, and living for my, you know, one day off to sit on the couch and do nothing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And that's a cycle that's unfortunate for a lot of people. They want to do this, want to do that, but unfortunately, they're working a job that they hate, and then they're burnt out by the end of the week, and then they have no drive to do anything, and then they don't end up doing what they really enjoy.
Do you remember what I promised you if you came?
What did you promise me?
Well, I said, first of all, you can have any day you want off to go hunting.
Okay.
And it's paid.
Yeah.
You get, you know, you can do this, you can do that.
Yeah.
And so you just had a license to work.
Well, I didn't take advantage of that much early on. Now, mind you, lately I've taken advantage of that a little bit.
But that's all right.
But early on, like, seeing how hard you worked, like, there was, I'm pretty sure the first 6 months I worked for you, you didn't take a day off.
Yeah, right.
And you just did it.
Yeah.
Because that's what you enjoyed to do.
Yeah, that's right.
And you told me, you're like, Brody, what am I going to do? Am I going to sit on the couch and watch TV all day?
Yeah.
What am I going to do?
Thank goodness
enjoy being here.
We had a woman that understood.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's different, right? Like I have kids and stuff like that. So, but you know, that's what you enjoyed to do. So yes, you know, you have tough days, you had easy days, whatever. You had days that are stressful. It is what it is. But at the end of the day, you woke up every morning and you were excited to go to work. And you went to bed thinking about what you're going to do the next day.
Boy, isn't that the truth?
Right? And it took me a while to realize why you did that, because I thought, like, holy smokes, this guy's just burning himself out, right?
Yeah.
But then it actually took me a few years to realize that no, he does this because this is his day off is working on habitat and taking it a little bit easier one day on a Sunday.
Yeah.
It's not sitting on the couch watching TV.
No, you're right there, bro.
You know what I mean? So, so I totally understand now how you did it and how you never took a day off sometimes. Like you just didn't. A day off to you was being in the shop.
Yeah. But
because that's what you enjoyed to do.
Isn't it?
It's different for me.
Yeah.
And it was same when you had children, right? It's different when you have children because you got to be with them. You want to be with them. You know, and myself, what hunting is to me, I find, like I just got back from a moose hunt, and when I'm gone and it's day 3 or day 4, you start to really miss
Yep.
life and what your daily routine is.
Yep.
And it makes you realize how much you appreciate things, you know, because you will, you know, up to that point, let's say whatever it was, you know, 15, 20 days of working, and then, you know, work until 12 at night and editing episodes and this and that, right? Long days.
That's what you do.
And then you're so excited and looking forward to that break to go hunting. And you're finally there, and then you get into day 2, 3, 4, and you're like, yeah, this is enjoyable, but going back home to what I do every day is still super freaking cool, and that's what I love. So for me, it is a bit of a reset, and I feel like it does me very, very well. But that's because, you know, like the hunting show to me is also a business as well, and it's something that I am truly passionate about, just like taxidermy. I love sharing that stuff with other people. But yeah, you know, it all started with a phone call saying, hey, do you want to come up here and help me out?
Yeah. Well, do you know, if I may, when we started doing it, I said, now Brody, this is the way I do it, and nobody else does. So you can't tell anybody. You remember that?
Yeah.
Well, it turns out he would tell a little bit, and next thing you know, he had customers all over the place.
Okay, yeah.
You remember that? Yeah. And so I thought, holy my God, just for that little bit of information that you let out, you know, so I said, go ahead.
Yeah, well, when we first started, when I first came with you, 2013, it was just word of mouth, the business. That's all it was, right?
That's right. Yeah.
2014 was the same, and I think it was around 2015 or 16 when I'm like, you know, we should start taking photos of this stuff, putting it online.
That's right.
Sharing it with people, and then I noticed that people like to actually see not just a finished product, but what we were doing.
Right.
Like see you painting a fish, or see me mounting a deer, or whatever it was.
That's right.
And
that's what I meant, Brody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. And so the way I looked at it was the value that I'm going to get and the positive reactions I'm going to get from showing someone how I mount this deer overweighs maybe the one guy who's going to, you know, pick out a tip or a trick or whatever it is.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, no, and that's been huge to us, and I think that was a big part of the progression and growing as a business was sharing what we do with other people.
Yeah.
And it all stems to, you know, the show and sharing, you know, my hunts and everything with other people as well.
I'll tell you, it sure kind of wisened me up, because it doesn't hurt to share a little bit.
No.
You know?
No. And, you know, it feels good when people see that and they say, hey, that eagle looks amazing. Or that bear turned out awesome, right?
Yeah.
It's rewarding. And it's good to hear that and feel that. Because you can get lost sometimes, especially in a business like this when you have, you know, 200 critters going out the door. You know what I mean? So when you can share that with people and get some more positive reactions and guys telling you how great your work is, it's a good refresher and it feels good and it sort of kickstarts you a little bit
Brody.
Right? Motivation is what it is.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I want to do this for a long time. I'm glad to finally have you on the podcast.
Just amazing.
It is amazing.
I must say, I never expected this.
Yeah.
And I certainly wasn't going to ask you to do it. I didn't really want to do it.
Yeah.
And now,
did Grandma have to convince you?
Huh?
Did Grandma have to convince you?
A little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit. It worked out, as far as I'm concerned, just fine.
I think it was great.
Good.
I think it was great. Now, any concluders? Anything to close it? Do you have any additional comments you need to add or want to add?
I'm afraid I'm talked out.
You're talked out. Fair enough. Well, we went an hour and 10 minutes. We're 70 minutes.
Okay.
70 minutes of chit-chatting.
There we go.
And that's a wrap, guys. Another Non-Typical Nation podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you enjoyed some of those stories. And check out Dave Booth Taxidermy on Facebook and Instagram. We share photos almost every single day. You can see some of his fish, some of his birds. You can see some of the mammals and critters that I do. And we're glad we could share this one with you guys.
Thank you.